My stepmother insisted on wearing my deceased mother's wedding jewelry to my wedding, and when my father supported her, I uninvited them both and wore the jewelry myself. I lost my mom to cancer when I was 14. Before passing, she left me a letter and her wedding jewelry set, a pearl necklace with matching earrings that had been in her family for generations. The letter asked me to wear them on my wedding day, a moment she wouldn't live to see. My father remarried 3 years later. Diane initially seemed nice, but quickly began erasing traces of my mother from our lives. Family photos disappeared, mom's cookbooks were donated, and her garden was paved over for a hot tub. Dad never objected, desperate to keep his new wife happy. I moved out for college at 18 and maintained minimal contact. During visits, Diane would make subtle digs about my mother or compare me unfavorably to her own daughter Emma. Dad would either remain silent or tell me to be understanding when I objected. Last year I got engaged to Michael. When we announced our engagement, my father and Diane offered to contribute to the wedding with conditions minus. They wanted to invite their business associates, select the venue, and veto several of my choices. After negotiation, we compromised on some points, but maintained control of important elements. 3 weeks before the wedding, during our final planning meeting, Diane casually mentioned she would be wearing Carol's pearl set to the wedding. I realized she meant my mother's wedding jewelry that had been specifically left to me. When I pointed this out, Diane claimed my father had given it to her years ago. He looked uncomfortable and mumbled something about putting the past behind us and making new traditions. The jewelry had been in my childhood bedroom's dresser drawer, stored in a special wooden box. Diane must have taken it after I moved out. I stated clearly that the jewelry was mine, left specifically to me by my mother for my wedding day. Diane's demeanor changed instantly, claiming I was being selfish and disrespectful of her position as the current Mrs. Lawrence. My father then suggested we share the jewelry. Diane could wear it to the ceremony, and I could wear it to the reception. When I refused, he accused me of clinging to the past. The next day, I went to their house when Diane was at her weekly spa appointment. I confronted my father, reminding him of mom's letter and her final wishes. He ultimately said that Diane was his wife now, and sometimes sacrifices were needed for family peace. I went upstairs to my old bedroom and found the wooden box hidden at the back of what had been my closet. I took the jewelry that was rightfully mine and left that evening. I received angry texts from Diane claiming I had stolen her jewelry. My father left voicemails alternating between guilt trips and threats about cutting financial support for the wedding. I blocked both their numbers. My wedding was 2 weeks ago. It was beautiful, intimate, and exactly what Michael and I wanted. I wore my mother's pearls and felt her presence throughout the day. My maternal grandparents walked me down the aisle, and my father and Diane were not present. Minus their invitations were rescinded, and we hired security to ensure they couldn't cause a scene. My aunt Rachel attended and apologized for her brother's behavior. She revealed this wasn't the first time Diane had tried to claim my mother's possessions, and gave me a small box containing my mother's wedding ring, which she had received years ago when she overheard Diane discussing having it resized for herself. Since the wedding, I've received numerous messages from extended family, some supporting my decision and others insisting I should reconcile with my father. I have no intention of doing so unless he genuinely acknowledges his wrongdoing. Michael and I are using the money we had budgeted ourselves to book a longer honeymoon in my mother's homeland, visiting places she told me about in childhood stories. It feels like the perfect way to honor her memory and begin our new life together. Sometimes standing your ground means losing people who should have stood with you, but it also means gaining the certainty that you've honored what truly matters.